Cybersecurity is one of the hottest topics around the world, and today an American firm says it has traced a number of attacks back to a building in Shanghai that's part of China's military unit. In response, Beijing says the report is groundless and denies any involvement. The BBC's John Sudworth reports.
It might not look much like the nerve centre of one of the most powerful cyber warfare operations on the planet. But according to Mandiant's report, this military base, People's Liberation Army Unit 61398, is exactly that. The American computer security company has investigated breaches at hundreds of organisations around the world and says it has traced the likely source of many of the attacks to just one district of Shanghai, the district where Unit 61398 is located. Its report concludes the groups conducting these attacks are based primarily in China, and the Chinese government is aware of them. And of that nondescript military tower block, it says it is one of the most prolific cyber espionage groups in terms of the sheer quantity of information stolen. In response, China's foreign ministry repeated the denials made many times before that China engages in large-scale cyber espionage.
Internet hacking attacks are an international problem that should be resolved on the basis of mutual trust and international cooperation. Continuous criticism based on limited data is irresponsible and not helpful in resolving the issue.
If the claims are true, though, then there will be many victims who will be interested to learn that China's alleged hacking operation now has an address. Mandiant says the unit has stolen many terabytes of data from at least 141 organisations across a range of industries. John Sudworth, BBC News, Shanghai.
Joining me now to discuss the recent cases of hacking is Douglas Paul, Vice President for Studies at the Carnegie Endowment for International Peace. So, Douglas, it's like the stuff of a spy novel, isn't it? This anonymous white building in Shanghai, allegedly bristling with Chinese cyber warriors, all looking at the US. Is this sponsored and backed by China's government?
It has to be. It couldn't penetrate the Great Firewall of China, which closely monitors internet communications in these volumes without being known to the government. And if it's known to the government and operating at such volumes, it must be part of the government.
And of what use is it to the government, given that it's going to really annoy the Americans?
Well, I don't think they care so much about whom they annoy. It's what they can obtain. On the one hand, you can obtain a lot of corporate data that would help Chinese industries get a leg up on their opponents in the commercial competition. The second way is to give you a weapons system in the form of using sophisticated internet controls to penetrate the infrastructure, say the national pipeline grid or the national power grid in case of a crisis. So it gives them a potential they can deploy if they feel that's important to their national interest.
And how strongly do you think US officials are protesting about this behind the scenes whenever they have summits with Chinese leaders?
Well, the US has been raising this on a very regular basis, and the issue is a complicated one because every country is going to use these internet tools to spy on each other.
Including the US?
Of course, including the US. The US is very capable in this. We don't steal, though. We don't steal technologies and things. At least we haven't for a couple hundred years. We did early on against the Brits in the 18th century. But the United States doesn't do that now. We've got laws against it and they're enforced. China doesn't have that. And the question is, how do you bring China into an international regime? Legislation has been sponsored by the House Permanent Subcommittee on Intelligence Leadership, which talks about informing people so that they're better protected in their own corporate headquarters, universities, think tanks, and the like.
And we heard today that Apple thinks that it's being hacked. We don't know who that's by, but it seems like there's an epidemic of it now.
Well, it's so easy to do. I mean, if you have persistent and well-protected people who can go in and use various routes around the world to get back at valuable targets, and if the targets don't protect themselves adequately with enough password and robust additional protection, then they're going to be picked clean.
And Doug, the US has its own cyber command. What's that up to?
Well, hopefully they're up to penetrating some of these capabilities and advising our own system. I think the Defense Department has 17,000 separate computer systems that need to be protected from hackers who could come in and tell a ship to go a different way from the way it was supposed to go. And those are all important factors in Cyber Command's responsibilities.
Doug, thank you.